Hello and welcome back to Batch Reviews. Today I get to drive a car that's not from the 1950s, despite what this colour of the interior might have you to believe. I'm actually driving something that's got the coolest name I've ever heard of. This is the Ora Funky Cat. Now, regular viewers of my channel will know this isn't the first time I've had some time with this car. I was actually able to have a good poke around the Ora Funky Cat over a year ago, and I was able to give you a proper walk around tour. Now you can watch that video by clicking there, or is it there? I never know. Somewhere on the screen here, a little pop-out banner will appear, and there you can have a really good look around this car. Today, over 12 months later, I'm actually able to take this car out on the road. So that's exactly what I'm going to go and do. Now, it's nice to be driving something that's new, and we're going to be seeing so much more of this over the next decade or so, where the legacy manufacturers, and by that I mean the car brands we all know and love, will be doing battle with brand new car companies. Well, in actual fact, that's not entirely true with the Ora Funky Cat, because the company that's behind it is GWM, which is Great Wall Motor, and they've been around since the 1980s. In fact, they are the best-selling brand when it comes to luxury SUVs in China. Now, some of you will be aware of GWM. It may ring a little bell in your head. Well, they have been here before, in fact. About 10 years or so ago, Great Wall Motor launched in the UK. They called themselves Great Wall, and they launched something called the Steed. And in actual fact, it was a pretty dreadful pickup. It was supposed to do battle with the likes of the Mitsubishi L200 and the Isuzu D-Max and vehicles like that, but it was just too cheap and nasty, and after a few years or so they stopped importing cars to the UK. But this is their second wind, and I have to say I'm very impressed. Now, before I come on to how this car drives, I just want to talk to you about the interior and some of the tech in this car. So you'll know from my full walk around of the car, I do sort of prod around the entire interior, but when you're actually driving this car, the quality of it really does shine through, and that's probably the most impressive thing about this car. Pretty much every surface is covered with this faux leather. It's got a bit of a suede effect to it. There's all stitching, there's diamond stitching on the doors, it's stitched across the top of the dashboard. It's not just the material quality, it's the quality of the switchgear as well. Everything seems to sort of work with a pleasing solidity to it, and purely from a build quality perspective, this car feels better engineered, better considered than a Volkswagen ID3. Yes, really. Now, GWM Ora are keeping things very simple in the UK. At the moment, at the time of filming this, there's only 3 dealers, but by the end of 2023, GWM Ora hopes to appoint 1 dealer a month, so there will be a pretty sizable dealer network. Now, the Funky Cat is only going to come available in 4 colours. There's red with a black roof, and a red and sort of white interior like we've got here. There's also a teal colour, sort of a turquoisey colour with a cream coloured roof, and a teal and white interior. Then there's sort of a limey, sort of beigey, sort of off-green colour, very strange colour, with a black interior, and there's a black with a black interior. Only 4 versions available, and they're just trying to keep it nice and simple with this car. Now, the interior quality of this car is not up for debate. What is up for debate is the style of the interior, and of course the style of the exterior as well. Now, that other big Chinese car company, SAIC, which you'll be aware of as MG in the UK, they do things a little bit differently, particularly with the new MG4. It's very sort of European in the way it looks. It's very modern, it's very kind of the moment. GWM have gone for something different with their Ora brand. They call it a brand full of personality and friendliness, and they've sort of gone for a kind of retro look here. And I quite like it. It's not kind of retro you find in a Mini Electric. It's kind of sort of a bit pastiche-y in here. It's kind of... it's not bang up to date, put it that way. I like it. I like the fact there's colour and a bit of fun and frivolity. But it's very different from lots of other electric cars on sale. Now, this car is absolutely brimming with technology. There is so much standard equipment. Just a quick rundown. This car gets a 5-star safety rating, and that's because of its very advanced safety systems. Just to give you a little taster of what's on offer, there's adaptive cruise control, there's lane keep assist, there's rear cross traffic alert with a brake. That's important because a lot of cars do have rear cross traffic alert, but they don't actually brake the car if it spots something sort of in your blind spot. But this will. You get blind spot monitoring. You also get facial recognition. That's what that little camera is over there. So that is constantly recognising your face. When you actually get in the car, it reads your face and it will set the car up to your settings, which are of course attached to the image of your face that it's taken. It's also like a monitor as well, so it is constantly monitoring where my eyes are and whether I'm paying attention or not. And it's clever, but it's also a little bit intrusive, as I found just before I set the cameras rolling, because I sort of looked down to look at the air conditioning controls, and then it chirped in saying, please keep your eyes on the road. Did you hear that? Please don't get distracted. Please concentrate on driving. So polite, isn't it? This car has also got voice recognition, which before you groan, it actually works in this car. So, for example, hello Ora.
Yes, I'm here.
Please lower the passenger window.
All right.
It actually does it. Hello Ora.
What's up?
Tell me the weather in London.
Currently, it is shower in London with a temperature of 14 degrees.
Wow. Hello Ora.
I'm listening.
Let's play the Geo game.
Welcome to Geo Quiz. 10 geographical questions coming right up. Ready? Let's go. First question. London is the capital of which country?
United Kingdom.
Sorry, I missed that. Please tell me your answer again.
United Kingdom.
That would be correct. You must really know your stuff.
I do. So you get the idea. You can even play games with it. The point I'm making is this is actual voice recognition that actually works. Now, the infotainment system and the screen in front of you, the driver display, is all GWM's own system. I mean, it works fine, and once you've got used to it, you do learn where everything is. It's just a little bit kind of cheap smartphone in feel and in the way it looks. I mean, the screen in front of me, for example, is almost Tesla-esque. I can see the car on the road, I can see other cars on the road as well, but it's like the typography a little bit is just a bit kind of, I don't know, it's just a bit cheap. Whilst there's no denying the quality of the switchgear in here, some of the usability of it does leave a little to be desired. The indicators, for example, they sort of stay in one place. They don't kind of click down or click up when you're actually using them. For example, if I want to turn right, I flick the indicator upwards, of course. But then to cancel that, I just move it down half a turn and then it cancels. It doesn't need to be like that, does it? And then there's the rotary knob down here, of course, for reverse, neutral and drive. Now, it doesn't click 3 times to move into those particular gears. it just turns all of the time. For example, I'm in drive at the moment and I can just keep turning this wheel like this and nothing happens. Strange thing to moan about, I know, but I found that when I was doing a quick U-turn and I had to quickly put the car into reverse a minute ago, because it doesn't click into place, I didn't know if I was in the right gear or not. It's just a strange thing. It doesn't need to be like that. Right then, what's the Ora Funky Cat like to drive? Firstly, the steering. Now you get this rather large steering, or thin rimmed, but it's nice to have a round steering wheel as opposed to something with the bottom sort of squared off and it being a little bit kind of awkward. This is a steering wheel, simple and straightforward. And when you actually turn the car, it's very accurate. As soon as you just turn it a little bit, the front wheels turn immediately. It's got quite a nice weighting to it as well. Now you can dive into the screen here and change the weighting to light, comfort and sport. I've got it in comfort and it's lovely. And I can feel the road surface through it as well. That is surprisingly good. Another thing I like is the way this car rides. Now the gross weight of this car is 1970 kilograms. Not light, but electric cars aren't light. But in a lot of electric cars, such as the Peugeot E208, even the Mini Electric, you know you're driving the electric version of that combustion engine car because of how the suspension is set up. I mean, quite often you hit a bump and the car sort of jumps up and then it crashes down again. The weight transfer sometimes can be a little bit too lumpy. In this, it really isn't. I think the ride quality is great. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, for the most part, you wouldn't think this is an electric car. The damping is very good indeed. It deals with potholes and bumps and imperfections in the road very, very well, and only occasionally does it bang and crash. It shrugs off bumps very well indeed. Now the Ora Funky Cat is powered by a 48 kilowatt hour battery. That sends power to a 171 horsepower electric motor which powers the front wheels. 0 to 60 takes just over 8 seconds, and when you put your foot to the carpet there's a slight delay and it picks up speed very smartly. It's all very smooth. It's nicely measured actually. Now of course there are different driving modes. There's a switch down here by my right knee, and every single time you press the button you get these weird sound effects. Now we're in normal mode at the moment. Did you hear that? That was sport mode. I think it's supposed to sound like a car is revving, but it just doesn't. It sounds like a weird kind of shotgun actually, but let me do it again. So eco mode, auto mode, normal mode, and wait for it, sport mode. And then of course the throttle is a little bit sharper. Steering's the same weighting actually. I think you probably have to go into the screen here to change the steering weighting, but yeah, it's just a little bit quicker when you actually put your foot on the throttle. Let's put it back into auto mode. How about that? Now not only can you change the steering weighting, but you can also engage one pedal driving, which is great. So when you engage that, it's very similar to other systems we find in the Nissan Leaf and the BMW i3 and all sorts of electric cars these days. It means that when it's engaged, when you take your foot off the throttle, the car comes to a complete halt. You don't have to touch the brakes, and that's great when you're driving around in the city because you can just drive the car, well, on the throttle. You don't actually have to move your foot over to the brake. So not only is it surprisingly quick and the steering nicely accurate, the chassis is pretty agile actually. I mean, you can throw this car into a corner and the body reacts really well. The first thing that does give up the ghost is grip. I mean, it does sort of lose a bit of grip, and of course that then affects the traction out of a corner. There we are, with a bit of wheel spin there. But really, that's only because I'm sort of letting my hair down a bit. For the most part, in normal everyday driving, this is really quite agile. It's not as agile as a Mini electric, of course it isn't, but it's not far off. Range, well, GWM Ora claim 193 miles. When I picked up this car, I had 187 miles, and I've done around 20 miles on this test drive so far, and we're down to 157, and I haven't really been doing normal driving. I've belted along the motorway, I've been driving very quickly on these B roads, and of course I've had the air conditioning on, so that's not too bad at all. Now, if you connect this car up to your home wall box, 7 kilowatt, you should be looking around the 5.5 hour mark. An 11 kilowatt charger on the street, that's probably around 3 to 4 hours, and if you plug into 150 kilowatt rapid charger, a 0 to 80% recharge time will take around 45 minutes. So that's not too bad at all, and very much on par with this car's rivals. Today has been one of those days where I come away feeling really surprised and really happy, because I was actually all ready to say, yeah, the Funky Cat is a nice car, but I think you should avoid. I don't, actually. I think this is a car that really does warrant serious consideration, especially if you are making your first leap into electric motoring. Why? Well, it drives well. The interior is really well made. This car's brimming with technology, and let's face it, you're going to be driving something that is like no other electric car on the road. There is one elephant in the room though, and that's the price. Now, this first edition comes in at $31,995. That price is pretty chunky, and a lot of people will be tempted to go for something more traditional. But not everyone's the same, are they? And I do think that if you are making your first step into electric motoring and you want something that's a little bit different, this car is certainly worth considering.